1. I go to school in a big city that is one of the least safe cities in the US. I chose this school for nursing and definitely not for the location. I live in a row house, that's what we call it, off campus with 4 other girls. Cheaper and nicer than dorms, or so we thought. I guess you get what you pay for. We are all girls and sophomores in college. As you would guess, we go out and drink. Come back, do things we don't remember. We had just started our rent in August. 3 floors plus a basement, which was padlocked by the owners. Understandable. We would definitely have parties down there to avoid immediate cleanup. The house was great. Amazing location to the school and work. I am a CNA who works odd hours, important for later. It was not expensive and good condition. I had never lived with that many people before, just one roommate. So before we didn't know if it was one of us who had misplaced or changed something. I started to notice my snacks were either half gone or completely gone. I was getting annoyed. But a house of many people is too much work to figure out who ate what, so I ignored it. Slowly, as girls do, we started making comments about someone eating our food, but passive-aggressively, college girls. We all just let it go, cause who wants a whole house fight? I work until about 11 in the NICU, get home at about 11:30, mostly on weeknights. I started to notice pans left out or snack wrappers around. I thought it was odd because none of my roommates had done that before, but just thought, oh, they probably drank a bottle of wine, then went to bed and forgot about all this. Again, my roommates started making comments. This time we started to ask because it was getting annoying with all our food being gone and things being left out. I knew it was one of them, but who wants to admit they ate someone else's snacks in college? Snacks are a high commodity. We chalked it up to the girl who always smokes and eats her weight in food. She swore it wasn't her. This went on for about 2 months. It got more obvious someone was clearly taking everyone's food. Definitely the girl that always smokes. I can see her eat her whole snack pantry in a night. I wish it was her. One night at work, I was about to get off, but a situation happened and I didn't end up leaving until 12:30. I took the bus home. I carry pepper spray, taser, and pocket knife, don't worry. I got home and was about to collapse. I wanted to go to bed ASAP. I walked in the front door, and the stairs are directly in front of you. You can also see down the side into the kitchen. I walked in and saw someone in the kitchen, but was way too tired to say hi, thinking it could end in like a 30-minute conversation about nothing. So I went straight upstairs. When I got to the 2nd floor, I noticed all my roommates' doors were closed, which always means they are either in their room for the night or asleep. I got a weird feeling. Just something that made it click. They were all asleep, right? I texted our house group chat asking if anyone was in the kitchen. I felt stupid for even asking. 2 responded no, and they said the other 2 had been asleep. I knew it wasn't any of my roommates down there at that moment. I dialed 911 but didn't press call. I crept into my roommate's room across the hall. Thankfully, or maybe not thankfully, she didn't have her door locked. I whispered, telling her I think someone is in the house. She gave me the widest eyes ever and almost looked like she was going to cry. She didn't suspect anything like I had, but for reference a very bad area as in there was a shooting in the house 2 doors down only weeks earlier by an intruder. She mouthed to make the call. The whole time we were dead silent. We didn't hear really anything at all. I was starting to think I was seeing things after such a long day at work, and was regretting that I dialed, thinking that I'm going to look like an idiot when they show up, and I was just overtired and dreaming. We explained what's going on, and they said they will send someone ASAP. And that actually does mean right away, since it's a big and dangerous city. The police show up, and I didn't even want to go downstairs, but the operator confirmed it was them, so I did. But the whole time, I swear the operator could hear my heart beating. The police come in and look around. I'm thinking, oh God, I look so dumb. They ask if there are any other floors. We tell them technically the basement, but it's padlocked, so really no. They checked the basement just in case. And, well, yeah, they were right. A man had been living in the padlocked basement. The lock was pulled off the hinges and just kind of propped against the wall. We never looked at that though, we rarely went out back. The guy had taken a comforter of one of my roommates out of the hall closet, had a mattress from God knows where, and his clothes. Was he the one moving and eating all of our stuff? He would come out in the middle of the night and do it. He started getting more comfortable. I don't know if he was drugged out and forgot to clean his tracks, or if he didn't really care. Me and my roommates have pretty consistent schedules during the week, probably letting him think that any time after about 12 was good to come out. We never slept with our individual doors locked, and that's what freaks me out most. He had access to any one of us at any moment, and we had no idea. When he was getting arrested, I was the only one to go down and look. I don't know why I did. I wish I didn't. I took a picture in the process of him being arrested to show my roommates who were too afraid to go down. So yeah, let's never actually meet, dude. 2. I have experienced 2 failed break-ins in my student life, both on separate apartments, and with, as far as I can tell, no relation to each other. But these events actually helped me to become more reactive when it comes to protecting myself and my relatives. Now, before we go into this, you need to know 2 things. 1, I'm a girl in my early 20s and I've just completed my master's degree. Over 5 years, I've lived in 3 different apartments. Then gave up the last year and lived with my boyfriend's family. More because I was fed up by roommates and struggling financially than because of the intrusions. Second thing, my dad left us, my mom, my sister and I, years ago to live with his crazy girlfriend. She would threaten us by text and remind us she knew the address to our home. Because of that, I'm very aware of my environment at night and wake up very easily. First event took place in my second apartment. I lived on the ground floor. It was one large room with 3 windows, one next to my bed, the other 2 10 meters at the opposite, next to the entrance, with a view of the street. On the second floor were 2 rooms, smaller, each occupied by girls I barely knew, Marian and Alma. I did talk to Alma a few times and added her on Facebook, but that was it. Third floor was unoccupied at the time. It had been during a week or 2 at the beginning of the year, but wasn't anymore, as the residents living there would organize parties with friends that would then try to break into the other floor's rooms. It has been empty ever since. At the start of the school year, October 2015, the street was busy. There were students' parties all around town, and as a result, fights and alcohol were rampant. Fast forward to 2016. The city is way more calm, but not dead. A familiar noise wakes me up in the middle of the night. It sounds like the tone of my bell, but weaker. And it comes from above. I check the time on my phone, it's 3 a.m. Weird. I'm thinking it must have been a mistake, but then it rings again, this time closer. And it keeps ringing. Like somebody is keeping his finger on the button. I keep listening, but stay in my bed. It stops. Then all the bells in the building ring at the same time, followed by steps on the pavement of the street going away quickly. I stay awake an hour, then go back to sleep. The next morning I send a message to my mum. As expected, she's worried and asks me to talk to my boyfriend, who lives closer to the apartment than her. She also wants to know if I'm comfortable calling the police if it happens again. I say yes, but think it was just a dumb joke made by a drunk student, and that I would not be bothered again. If only. The second night, I'm awakened by the sound of a bell ringing. By the sound of it, it comes from one of the girls above me. It lasts about 20 seconds sharp. I wake up and sit on my bed. Suddenly all the buttons are pressed quickly, one after the other, resulting in a sound wave all over the building. I decide to check what's going on closer, but still on a distance. I go to the door of my apartment, which is made of wood and opaque glass, while the main door is made of hard acrylic and double glass. I take a look, and sure enough, nobody is there anymore. I stand there 10 minutes, waiting. Then I give up and go back to bed. Nothing else happened that night. When I woke up in the morning, I saw a paper on the ground next to my door. It was saying something like, "Hey, Mary and me are worried about the ringing at night. I will send a mail to the landlord. Tell me on Facebook if you notice something else, Alma." We are now Thursday, 12th of April, 2016. And usually this is a day when my boyfriend comes to spend time with me. On this week he was not feeling well, and I was worried he would not be able to come, but he said he would anyway, and that's what he did. Unfortunately, he began to show signs of fever and thus went to bed early. I read a book until around midnight, then joined him. 4:04 a.m. A loud noise wakes me up. I emerge from a very deep dream, and it takes me a few seconds to understand what's going on. I hear my phone on the table. On the screen, I see a messenger notification. I want to grab it, but before I have the time, the sound comes back louder. It's not the bells, it is somebody trying to force the main door. I touch my boyfriend's face to wake him up, and feel that he's very hot. I realize he will not be able to help me. I step over him and grab my phone. Alma sent me a message. "There's somebody trying to open the door. What do we do? I'm too afraid." All the bells ring. As if someone was sliding his finger across them, I still get a panic text. "It rings at the 3rd floor." I rush to my door and see a dark silhouette through the glass. As I reach him, he begins to shake the door very hard. I freeze for a minute. I recompose and shout, "Stop!" He stops. I can see him hesitate. Suddenly a car comes into the street. He moves to the building to the left, next to my 2 windows, and now I can only see his shadow on the ground. The car stops, and a man gets off the back seat and says in a drunk voice, "Thank you, stay safe." Then he closes the door and waves as the car goes the other way. He sees the creepy guy and asks me, "Hello, do you need help?" I hear him respond in a young but intoxicated voice, "My wife, friends." The guy from the car tells him, "Okay, good night," and goes away. Alma sends me a new message. Is he gone? But unfortunately, the creep is already coming back to the front door to slam the buttons, and worse again, to try to break in. Alma sends me, "Tell him we'll call the police." I answer to her, "I see him, call them. I will try to stop him." She says that she doesn't remember what the number is. I give it to her. Then shout at the man, hoping it would make him stop shaking the door. I shouted like 3 or 4 times without success. I look back at my boyfriend still on the bed, but awake and sitting, with the pale face of someone going to pass out or vomit. I take my keys, open my door, get close to the main door and shout at the man, "What the fuck are you doing?" Now I can see him, and he can see me. He is not tall, maybe around 1.60 meters like me. He has mid-length brown hair and looks as sick as my boyfriend is at the moment. He wears dark pants and a white shirt, and a blue and red sweater, probably a student. He responds to me by shouting incomprehensible gibberish. He heads back to the door, hands first. I take a step forward and tell him to go away, with the most angry face I can make. I realize I still have my phone, so I raise my hand and take a picture of him. He doesn't notice, as he reaches for his own phone. He freezes for a minute looking at his screen, then, without even looking at me, goes to the left of the street and disappears. The police arrive 5 minutes later, but were not really helpful. Nor Alma or Marion came downstairs. I was alone, telling them which way he went, describing what the picture didn't show. The first police officer who talked to me, a woman, was apparently not convinced, even when I told her about the other attempts. She told me to get back in my room, lock the doors, and that they would come back after looking around for the guy. They were gone, and while I was sitting at my table waiting for them, I looked at the picture, taken at 4:11. The whole intruder thing lasted less than 10 minutes. Police never came back. The wannabe intruder never came back. And in July 2016, I left the apartment. I never had so much friends coming for sleepovers during these 3 months. After a few days, I realized how silly it was to go out in the doorway like this in pajamas at 4 in the morning. He could have done everything. I didn't even feel like I scared him. A few months ago, I was going through my drive and saw that I still had the picture. I don't know why. I don't want to delete it. And I saw something I never noticed before. He was not wearing shoes, only socks, on the cobblestone street. So I don't know why you came, weird guy, but let's not meet again. 3. I live in a pretty safe area. Lots of nice older people. Quiet kind of place snowbird retirees decide to settle down in. In other words, nothing really happens here. Yesterday, 12:26, it's 3 a.m. of 12:27 as I type this, evening, I decided that I wanted to go to our nicer Walmart to get some late Christmas presents for my boyfriend's family. I'm on a college budget, so I couldn't afford somewhere nicer. As it was getting dark, I brought my little sister, female 15, along with me. I usually have trouble driving in the dark by myself, so I avoid doing it alone at all costs. We get into the Walmart, and as soon as we walk in, this random guy says hello to us. Nothing unusual. People are pretty friendly here. And while I didn't recognize him, it seemed possible I might have met him before and just forgotten who he was. So I said hello back, grabbed a cart for our shopping, and didn't really think more of it. It wasn't until a bit into shopping that I realized we were being followed. We had passed by him at the first aisle we looked at, and again it didn't seem odd. You see familiar faces at Walmart a lot. It's not like gift shopping isn't a common thing. Then we went to an area across the store, the beauty aisle, where we also happened to run into him. I was on the phone with my boyfriend's brother asking him what would be the best gift for his mom, and he decided to speak to us.
So, do y'all live here?
I didn't want to answer the question, not because I thought he was trying to be creepy, but because I was on the phone. He continues to harass me while I'm talking. About my name and my sister's name. I try to ignore him, pointing to my phone, but he continued his interruption anyway. I told him my first name. Maybe he was confusing me for someone he knew, and he was just impatient. Then didn't say another word. More out of frustration than being creeped out. But I thought it must have worked as he walked off. Keywords, thought he did. As soon as I was off the phone, he tells us his name, something that starts with a V, but he mumbled it. So I'm not exactly sure what his name was. He then asks our names again, and it finally hit me that this was someone who, at the very least, didn't really understand how to talk to people. So we ignore him, grab what we needed, tell him it was nice to meet him, and walk away. At that point, we had all we needed, so we walked to the self-checkout area of the store. For those unfamiliar with the way self-checkout in Walmart works, you basically stand in a line outside of the area until one of the machines in the area is free. When it is, the first person in line goes to it, and the others wait until another machine is free. This guy didn't. I started to scan our stuff, and he was suddenly behind us. He didn't even have any items with him. The first theory was that he wanted to steal my money. He was way too close. I was sliding my card in the machine to pay. It made sense. He even faked a phone call when I turned around to look at him. But he cut that theory short when he looks at my sister and asks her, "How old are you two?" I froze and silently hoped my sister would not be foolish enough to answer the question. But she did. And with my back still facing him, he asked if I was also 15. I said no, and was going to leave it at that. But my sister decided to outright tell him my actual age. I could feel myself shaking. My sister didn't seem to understand at all how out of line he was. He stares at me when I turned to face him, and he asked me, "Would y'all like to call me sometime? It's real fun." I remember choking out a response along the lines of, "No thanks," and grabbing my sister's hand to run out of there if we had to. He had just heard she was underaged, and he was trying to get us alone with him. To clarify, I have never met this person, ever, neither has she. He looked to be about mid-20s in age, so he was definitely too old to try to lure a 15-year-old alone with him. As a college student, I'll probably hear worse from people, but as a young high schooler, my sister was absolutely baffled. As we were walking out of the area, I went to the manager in the store and asked if somebody could walk us out to my car. I had a dreadful feeling that our encounter would not have ended with the rejection, and by this point it was dark outside. My car was also parked pretty far away from the entrance of the store, and if I could avoid any further instances of him following us, I was going to do that. And sure enough, As we were walking with the two employees who nicely offered to take us to my car, he slipped out and was beginning to follow us again. This time, though, he was about 15 feet behind us. I pointed this out to one of the employees, and when he went to look at him, he stopped following us and walked the other direction. The employee walking us to my car stayed there and didn't lose sight of us until we were out of the parking lot, car doors locked. When we went home, I relayed the information to my parents, and my dad went to the store to speak to the manager about it. She claimed that while there was a police officer in the store, they couldn't locate or contact him, as he was undercover and on loss prevention duty. He got frustrated and walked around the store himself, asking a few other people in the store about the guy based on the description we gave him. He seemed to have left about 5 minutes or so after we did, and 2 other women told him that the guy had also tried to approach them this way, but he didn't get as far into his information digging as he did with us. As far as legal precautions go, there isn't much we can do, as he didn't technically do anything illegal that could be proven. So yeah, Walmart stalker, let's not meet. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 360. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Well, I have a feeling this is going to be another quick year. Well, there what, the 7th already? I mean, I blinked last year and 2018 went by. Ah, well, with that I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.